And welcome back to the Hard Lap. We are talking the Las Vegas Grand Prix, year number 3. McLaren have not yet won this race. Verstappen has, George Russell has. And, well, we'll be telling you why it may be a bit of a struggle for the McLaren team. And also, can Max Verstappen stay in title contention? Well, boys and girls, it is officially a race week again. We've had a week off. We are, whoops-a-daisy, we are now in Las Vegas territory as we home in on it on F1's only Saturday race. So this year, as you can see on the poster, we have 2 of the 3 title contenders. But before we get into that, Williams have a new look. Dark night mode has been activated, so to speak. Not too bad. Moving on from that, though, is what most people are going to be talking about in Las Vegas. As lovely as the new Williams look is, we've got Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri and Max Verstappen, all 3 vying for the 2025 F1 World Championship. George Russell went out of contention, I think, a race ago. And here's the points. Here are your 3 protagonists, so to speak. 83 points remaining. Lando Norris on 390. Oscar Piastri on 366. So just about a race win between them. Minus about 1 point. 24 points. And 49 points down is Max Verstappen. He does truly need to do something special at Las Vegas. But we'll be telling you why this is probably the best racetrack for Max Verstappen to do something special against the McLaren team. Here are the driver standings. And Norris, as we know, on 390. Oscar Piastri on 366. Max Verstappen is 3rd on 341. George Russell is in 4th on 276. 5th, Charles Leclerc on 214. And 148, Lewis Hamilton. That's got a sting, doesn't it? Antonelli's in 7th. 8th is Albon. 9th is Hulkenberg. And 10th is Isaac Hadjar. Hulkenberg and Hadjar both on 43 points, but I think, Albon's pretty safe. He's 8th on 73. I'm struggling to see. It's not happening, is it? No one's going to beat him there. What's also interesting, 11th and 12th, Behrman and Alonso on 40 points each, followed closely by Carlos Sainz on 38, Liam Lawson on 36, and Lance Stroll on 32. If you remember, Lance Stroll started the year really strong, and then he wasn't. So, Ocon in 16th, Tsunoda in 17th, Gasly in 18th, Bortoleto 19th, Colapinto 0 points. Along with it, he's not there, but Jack Doohan. So he scored the same amount of points as Jack Doohan, but had way more than double the races. Triple, I imagine. And he's been resigned. I like Colapinto, but I don't know the logic there. But also, do not forget the battle for P2 in that Constructors' Championship. McLaren have already won it, as we know. Second is Mercedes on 398, 366 in 3rd for Red Bull, 362 Ferrari. They basically lost. They were 2nd. And because they had such a disastrous Brazilian Grand Prix, they are now all the way down in 4th. Yeah, not particularly great. It is absolutely not great at all. But now, what I'd like to do now is talk about McLaren, and there are concerns for Las Vegas. Even Stella has come out and said McLaren has taken action after learning from last year's lack of competitiveness in Vegas, but whether those changes will be enough remains to be seen. So as he said himself, Vegas last year was one of many difficult races. It was. Not as bad as 2023, because that's the year Lando Norris yeeted off into the wall. He said we had difficulties with the behaviour of the tyres in qualifying because we were not fast and the behaviour had a lot, basically he's saying a lot of graining. He's talking about aerodynamic issues as well. When we tried to offload the rear wing, we saw we were losing too much efficiency and we had issues with the setup of the car. Now, why would that change? Well, obviously the 24 car is based on the 2023 car. And my concern for McLaren is thus, take a look at the weather. And there is a reason why. Thursday, it could turn mostly cloudy in the afternoon, chance of rain. Friday, cloudy with a chance of showers during the morning, but partly cloudy and likely dry in the evening. But it's the temperatures you look at, 9 to 14. Or 9 on Friday, qualifying day, 9 to 16. On the Saturday, 3 to 8. I mean, that's, 3 to 8 centigrade. It's just, that's the highs and lows. It's just not great. A 10 to 30% chance of rain for qualifying, less than 10% for Saturday. Never say never, though. So the issue then with McLaren is because it is so cold, McLaren, as we know, are very good at looking after their tyres. But as you can see, when you're looking at 7 to 14 degrees centigrade as a high, and that's the highest it's going to get throughout the whole weekend, with the lowest of 3 to 8 degrees centigrade, that's not exactly hot. That's not exactly looking after your tyre McLaren speciality territory. And this is where other teams come in. If you remember last year, George Russell with the Mercedes scored very well. And Hamilton, in spite of qualifying quite far back from poor Mr. Russell, ended up finishing second. It was a really strong race for Mercedes. And it could be a strong race for Red Bull as well. But it may not be a strong race for McLaren. And I think we have 3 races left. We have Las Vegas, Qatar with the sprint, and Abu Dhabi. And I think this is the one race where McLaren may struggle. They'll have their mojo back, I'm sure, in Qatar and Abu Dhabi. It's very McLaren circuit friendly. But even Lando Norris is slightly concerned. He fears Las Vegas trouble as he hits back at media criticism as well. This is from Autosport a couple of days ago. McLaren failed to qualify, finishing in the top 5 of Las Vegas race last season, and Lando Norris expects another difficult weekend. He's openly expecting McLaren to struggle again. And I mean, it says here, again, as Las Vegas, if the team gets a first chance to steal, they're not going to steal the Formula 1. Oh, they could steal the Formula 1 driver's crown. Yeah, guaranteed. If Max Verstappen basically doesn't beat either of them, there's a very good chance that then he's out of the championship. But this is where this could be Max Verstappen territory, where if McLaren struggle, he could take quite a few points and still just about keep that title hope flame flickering slightly. But Norris, as we know, he leads third place Max Verstappen with 49 points in the standings, it says, and needs to bring that gap to 58 points. But the Nevada track proved McLaren's toughest challenger last year, with the last year's McLaren car struggling badly. As you heard Andrea Stella, it was all about the graining, to the extent that Norris and his team at Oscar Piastri, they failed to basically qualify or finish in the top 5, and we'll get into that in a bit. He said it's very difficult, super low grip. I feel like I could drive a road car quicker than we drive at the minute, Norris had telling after practice. And I imagine they just couldn't get, I'd like to think it just couldn't get the tyres warm. Very similar to Mercedes with Lewis Hamilton at Brazil. The reason he did so bad in qualifying, he just couldn't switch on particularly those rear tyres. Now fast forward 12 months for McLaren, as we know, it's been overwhelmingly dominated the 2025 season through a fair amount of the races, at least on the constructors front. And even Stella said Vegas shouldn't be as much of a challenge. He's adopting a more optimistic approach. And even he said about the cold weather, he said hinder for sure. I think it was our worst race last year, so I'm not really looking forward to it. We've been trying to work hard on improving those things. We know Mercedes were incredibly strong there last year, as well as Red Bull and Ferrari. I think we were at the bottom of those 4, and that's the concern, and that's the hope I imagine that Max Verstappen is very much going to have as well. Now, here we go. This was 2023. Now, yeah, I granted it was a couple of years ago. But if you look, McLaren were third fastest team there. McLaren was the third fastest car, despite of that they didn't get a particularly very good result, not in the top 5. And then if we forward to 2024, last year it's even worse for McLaren. We have Mercedes on top, Ferrari about 1.5 tenths down, Red Bull about 2, a quarter of a tenth down, and then McLaren 4 tenths down. To be fair, more near a half a second down than it's not very good at all in 4th. The only saving grace is the Haas was over half a second away from McLaren, but that's not particularly good, and that I imagine is going to give Max Verstappen some help. I'm sure of it, absolutely. So moving on from McLaren to looking at the track. And it is a pig. It's become a meme at this point now. It's an upside down pig. It's basically got a few medium speeds, a few chicanes, and lots of straights. Fairly decent straights as well, with nice long DRS detections. So I'm hoping we're going to get some passing. In terms of the track itself, as we know, the first race there was a couple of years ago now? A lap record of a 1 minute 34.876. That's Lando Norris in 2024. Yeah, but he still had a bitty bad race pace. Top speed, 229.28 miles per hour. That's insane, isn't it, by Alex Albon. Most overtakes, 181, mostly by Oscar Piastri. 20. In 2020, that's a lot of overtakes. So 50 laps, 17 corners, and 2 detection zones, or DRS detection zones. So let's get into the rest of our preview, shall we? So here we are. Let's talk Las Vegas, shall we? But more to the point, let's talk the Las Vegas track. Fingers crossed. Here we are. Brilliant. Worked out well so far, hasn't it? So as we are now down the start-finish straight at Las Vegas, we're going down now. You want to, I mean, that corner is pretty much flat anyway, if I'm honest. Into turn number 1 and 2. It's quite tight. Yes, you can pass here. It's wide-ish at parts for a street circuit. And as we now go into, from 3, now we're in between turns 4 and 5. A nice little straight here. Yes, it's going to be not impossible to pass by the time you get down here. It is basically a DRS detection zone as we come in to 5 and we're coming into 6. This is a really hard corner. It's a left-hander that seems to go on forever. Then suddenly you need to brake. It's kind of almost blind. And yeah, we do see people making quite a few mistakes here as we're now coming up to one of the slow parts of the track. They love the chicanes here, don't they? They absolutely adore chicanes in general in Formula 1. But anyway, moving on. I've absolutely no idea where we are now because I've been looking at the I think we're now in 10, 11 and 12. Yeah, we are now. So as we're coming up now on this really, really long straight, that is basically separated by one chicane, and that's it. It seems like a fairly long circuit when you're actually on it. But yeah, we do see, and you can see now why we see lots of passing. Are they going to be tyres graining this year? We know how good those Pirelli tyres now are as we get into the last chicane, and then on the power towards turn 17, which is let's just say it's flat, into then the start finish straight, as you can see here. So that's pretty much it for the Las Vegas track guide. Yeah, not the best one, I know. Sorry about that. I kind of like lost my way halfway through. But there we go. Now, if you want to know some facts about the Las Vegas track, well, as I mentioned, it is 17 corners. It's only been around for a couple of years. Won by George Russell last year and Max Verstappen in that, let's be fair, the absolutely dominant run in 2023. It's 3.8 miles long or 6.2 kilometres in old money. So in terms of the drivers, who do we think's going to win? Well, let's get into it, shall we? So in terms of we're going through least likely to most likely. So bear with me. And are we surprised? I mean, I don't want to be too mean, but yeah, he's probably not going to win. He still has 0 point while Gasly is still scoring points. Jacques Villeneuve even came out and was, in my opinion, slightly unfriendly towards poor Franco Colapinto, basically saying, yeah, he's only there because of his money and his deals. I think he's a bit better than that. Are there better drivers that they could have signed? Yep. Should they give Jack Doohan another chance? I think so. But there we go. I'm not running it. Some Flavio Briatore's running it. Yeah, I probably could do a better job. Anyway, moving on. Lance Stroll, not likely. Let's just hope he doesn't yeet it into a wall. Anything else, I think, for Lance will be a bonus. But he has shown a few flickers of speed, hasn't he? I think, what was it, in the F1 sprint race in America. So, fingers crossed. Now, in terms of that, Gasly again. Once again, the Alpine is an absolute mystery. You don't know what Alpine you're going to get. You're going to get one that could potentially qualify in the top 10, or you'll get an Alpine that's basically last. I mean, it does seem they've pretty much given up on this year, concentrating, understandably, on 2026. So I'm not holding out much hope for Pierre Gasly. In terms of the kickstart, again, they a bit like Alpine, but not as extreme. They can surprise. Bortoleto and Hulkenberg, I've kind of like put them together because they've been really close over the course of the season, I feel. And I'm still very upset about Bortoleto. I don't think it was completely Lance Stroll's fault at Brazil, although he had a lot to do with it. I think it was like Bortoleto put his car in a position for Lance Stroll to do that. I know Franco Colapinto stuck up for him, but at his home Grand Prix, it was absolutely heartbreaking. And I think Hulkenberg as well, I think Las Vegas, street tracks are always more difficult, I think, for rookies. So I'm almost expecting Nico Hulkenberg to outdo Bortoleto. And if he doesn't, I think Hulkenberg's going to be really disappointed. And this guy here, he's getting quite the pasting at the moment by Ollie Behrman. And I think, sadly, it's absolutely going to continue for poor old Esteban Ocon. I can't see any evidence to the contrary. But, once again, 3 races, a rogue safety car, absolutely could get points. As can, I think at this point, in terms of speed, anyone can get points. If you have the safety car, a crazy crash, the safety car at the wrong moment from up for half the grid, taking a risk. We've got, a tiny chance of rain, who knows. So Fernando Alonso, absolutely, but because it's quite a draggy car, and as you've seen, the track does have a lot of straights. I'm not holding out too much hope for Fernando Alonso scoring, and I think, for example, the Racing Bulls are going to be ahead of him. Liam Lawson, not too bad in Brazil. I'm really hoping they keep him. Has he done enough, though? Has Liam Lawson done enough to be kept by the Racing Bull team? That one I'm not too sure. I mean, we absolutely know his teammate has absolutely done enough. He's been a revelation, I think, and everyone's talking about him going to Red Bull. It's a bit hard to disagree with that, really, but yeah, I think these two can do well. If you remember, they outqualified both Red Bulls in Brazil, which was completely insane. Who would have guessed that at any point in 2025? Next up, we've got Oliver Behrman. I put him quite high because this guy is on form. I mean, we're talking about Hadjar being the best rookie. Yes, Behrman has made more mistakes than Isaac Hadjar, but if he keeps this form up, I mean, goodness me. Absolutely, I'm really excited to see what he can do here. Again, he's a rookie. He hasn't raced here, but I put him ahead of Ocon simply because he's very much on form. And the Williams team are very much, I think, due a decent race with Carlos Sainz and Alexander Albon. I pretty much, if I'm honest, put them together. Because I think at this point, Carlos Sainz is happier seemingly with the car than Alex Albon. The development has moved a bit, but yeah. Both Williams, I think they'd be disappointed if not at least one of them will be scoring points. If not both. And I think at least one of them should be making it to Q3. Otherwise, disappointing times. And Yuki Tsunoda, are we seeing the last 3 races of Yuki Tsunoda's career? I really hope not, but it is hard. If you're going to write an essay about it, it'd be really hard to prove otherwise at the moment, wouldn't it? With his form, not all his fault, as I keep saying. I honestly think 70% of the blame have to be the Red Bull team for not really sorting out that second car in any way. So next up, Lewis Hamilton, disappointing in Brazil. Then you had the Ferrari president having a go at both of them. The rumours were it was mainly more Hamilton than Leclerc. If those rumours are to be believed, pinch of salt. But yeah, they did well last year, but because it's been common knowledge now that Ferrari made that mistake with the plank, thinking that they could run their car a lot lower than they really can, and it's hindered them for the whole season. It's going to hinder them again here. So it's almost like I think the teams ahead of them are going to have to mess up on the setup a bit for them to be really, really good. We'll see. We've also seen Ferrari really good in practice 1 and practice 2, and when it comes to qualifying, they're absolutely nowhere. Next up, as I predicted, though, I think the McLaren's going to struggle. Maybe not as much as the Ferrari, but then Lando Norris. He is now in the championship. He's going to be... Are we going to have paranoid Norris back? Not the risk-taker Norris. The play-by-numbers Norris. Or are we going to have the Norris we've been seeing the last few races and he wins 3 in a row, which he hasn't done yet? Or are we going to see Choke Norris come back? I don't think we're going to see Choke Norris come back. I really hope not. But I think he's going to be fairly sensible now till the end of the year. He's got that 24 points. And yes, he's going to want to absolutely beat Piastri. But he may well just be happy to sit behind Piastri and Verstappen. And then come Qatar, because we know he's fast in Qatar. There's, even in 2023, that he had a chance of getting pole. So I think he'll do, he may be waiting for Qatar for his moment and just survive the Las Vegas Grand Prix, especially if McLaren are thinking they're going to struggle. And I'll say the same for Piastri. Survive, yes, but he is now in a position... I mean, you think of it, you're Oscar Piastri, you're 24 points behind Lando Norris, 3 races to go. It's risk take time, I think, now, isn't it? I've got nothing to lose time. It really is, because he's not winning this. He can win every race, and as long as Lando finishes second, Oscar Piastri is not going to be the champion. I don't think that's going to happen in terms of Lando winning every race with Oscar second. But with McLaren struggling, if Oscar can get the most out of the car this weekend, that will really help. Even if he can get a third and Lando Norris is 6th or 7th, for example, I think this is a weekend for Oscar to take risks because he's got nothing to lose. Now, I put Kimi Antonelli quite high. RPs, I think, simply because Mercedes was so good there last year. And I've got no reason not to think that as well. They were solid also, if you remember, the last street race in Singapore, which was a night race. It was a lot cooler temperature. It's going to be a lot cooler here than it was at Singapore, and they did well. So I think now with his newfound confidence, he will do very well. Now, I've not put Max as the favourite to win, simply because Red Bull have been struggling a lot in Brazil, and I'm starting to think that have Red Bull gone wrong somewhere with the upgrades, or they were fast-ish at points at Mexico, very fast in Brazil when they sorted their car out, bearing in mind that they only had one session. So I think they're going to be fast. I think Max will at least be the fastest or second fastest guy in Las Vegas. But the favourite for me, I think George Russell, he knows he can do it. Last year he won it. He won Singapore, won from the front. I think if he can get a decent qualifying, he's there for his, for another George Russell victory, which stands him in really good stead next year. And he's got something to prove, because Kimi Antonelli really showed him up in Brazil, and he's going to want to stop that straight away, isn't he? He's like, no, young pretender. But there we go. So that is our Las Vegas Grand Prix preview. Slightly shorter than last time. Sorry, I didn't have all the stats and stuff for the track. I'm sure I'll get it for Qatar though. But until then, if you have made it to the end, please consider a subscribe. That would make us really, really happy if you're not subscribed. If you are, just think of that notification button so you don't miss one. But you just getting to the end is more than enough for us. That is amazing. You just clicking on this is more than enough for us. We're not worthy. Thank you very much. We'll speak to you soon. Stay safe.